Okay, so it's full reapplication day and you've blocked out 2 hours because you don't want to rush it. You've mentally prepared, and then you look in the mirror and you're like, do I actually need to take this entire thing off? Or do I just need a hairline refresh, which is going to make you look great again without having to go through the whole rigmarole of doing that off? Is it just lifting a little bit or looking a little dingy? Just do the front hairline. Because here's the thing that took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to figure out. You do not always need to take the entire thing off. Sometimes all you need to do is refresh that hairline, and maybe it takes 15 to 20 minutes instead of 2 hours, which, as someone who spent the last 20 years before this with basically zero hair maintenance, just buzzing it off, that's extremely appealing. So today I'm walking you through how I just did my hairline refresh and exactly how you're going to do that. And also talk to you about when it makes sense to completely take the thing off and start over again, and when you can just do the front hairline. All right, let's get into it. This is how I know it's time to redo it. You can see that that line's looking pretty hard, and it does look like a literal line across your forehead. So the first thing you're going to need is some rubbing alcohol. For me, when you're doing a hairline refresh, I don't recommend that you use an oil-based glue, a dissolver. That's really more for a full refresh. If you do alcohol, it does a great job of loosening up the glue or the tapes that you're using without adding any extra oiliness to the hair system. I'm holding the hairs of the front hairline not taut, but it's so that there's a bit of tension. And with that tension, you can start to feel the glue. And in my case, the tapes start to lift. And once you get that feeling and you just don't want to keep working that alcohol from the Q-tip against that edge, and try not to pull, because when you pull, you can risk damaging the lace. In my case, I'm using a lace front, and the lace can get stretched and damaged pretty easily. If you're using French lace, that tends to be a little bit more sturdy, but if you're using Swiss lace or anything really fine like that, it tears pretty quickly. So you want to be very, very careful and take your time when you're doing this process. Like I said, this takes me about 15 to 20 minutes total, and I never rush it. I want to make sure that I have usually at least 30 minutes blocked out to do this. There it is. I'll lift it up. Always helpful to have a hair clip nearby. I got these from Drybar. I like that they have a little bit of grip to them. Really, really easy clips to work with. And so now I'm going through and I'm starting to loosen up the tapes from the actual hair system. And I found that depending on how loose the tapes are, they can peel away pretty quickly and easily. And sometimes it will take a little bit more effort to make the tape come off of the hair system. Sometimes you need a tool to help get that process started. Soaking the hairline in alcohol will get it to lift a lot easier, but I'm just using the edge of the comb to gently break up that tape edge. And it does a pretty good job of getting it going. I just need to get it started. So I can see that it just lifted that one piece. Then I'm going to use my fingers to very gently start to roll and take that tape off. Take your time and slowly roll that off. See how I'm holding the hair system as I pull the tapes, going closer to where the tape's being pulled. Again, I don't want to rip the base of this lace system. So anytime you feel it start to stick too much, just grab a little bit of rubbing alcohol with a Q-tip, and that will help to loosen up the hair. There we go. There's that first piece. It will help to loosen it up. I really like these Sani Hands Nice and Clean hand sanitizer wipes to clean up the edge of the hairline and just make sure you get any dirt or grime, but especially any old residue. Get the old residue off the hairline because that's going to really hinder whether or not the new glue is going to stick the best. Make sure that you gently remove any of the excess glue or tape from the lace itself, and take your time with this process as well. Everything's clean. I like to have a look at the hair and just place it down to see if there's any old adhesive, or just have a look at it before I go in with tape or glue to make sure that it's looking really good. A barber pencil is going to be your best friend when you're marking out where to put the tapes, especially. It can be really helpful with glue as well, but I find that tapes need to be very precise, because if they overlap and there's tape and then the hair system, it can look really, really obvious. So taking the time to mark it out properly will make a big difference. I like to double check that I'm not getting too close to the hair system. I want to have just like the smallest amount of gap between the marking and where the hair system is. If I need to, I can actually come back at the end and trim down the tapes with a little bit of alcohol. But you want there to be like the perfect amount of space so that it's really easy for you to place the tapes and then put the hair down. Using some type of barrier spray or cream or stick underneath your hair system, underneath the tape on your scalp, makes such a huge difference in how comfortable the wear is. This one is the True Tape Skin Shield Topical Dermal Barrier. I really, really like how this feels with the tapes, and I definitely suggest you give it a try. I think there's a lot of great ones out on the market. And the thing about hair systems is it's not a one size fits all. So you got to find what works for you. These are the tapes of my choice. They are the Walker Ultrahold Minis. And the thing I like about them is they're very, very thin. So you can even overlap them if you need to, which I found has been the easiest and the best way to go. So when you overlap them, they don't create a ton of bulk and they look pretty good for about a week and a half. Tapes come pre-cut into this size, but you can cut them almost down to a quarter very easily. And having them in that smaller size when you're just doing a hairline, for me, makes a big difference. You can get the angles right, especially when you have a more receding hairline like I have. It's not straight across. It's almost an AA if you're familiar with the hairline shapes. And what you'll see as here, I'm just getting them started and opening up the tapes first, because when you open them up and just get them started, when you put them on your hair, it's a lot easier to get the white off. So you peel them off and then you're going to place them right along your hairline. I like to do the sides first in the very back because you can use a larger strip, and then I use smaller pieces as you get closer to the front. Then all you need to do is work your way across the hairline. And if they start to overlap like that, you might want to peel off one of the white strips so that you can get them to start hooking to each other. But this is a process that you'll figure out what works best for you. I like to go one little step at a time and remove as I need to and work across the hairline. Now that they're all laid down, you can leave some of the white on there. Honestly, you can leave all of the white protectors on. It doesn't make a difference. Sometimes I leave some of them, sometimes I leave some of them, but you'll want to remove all of the barber pencil now, because what I found in the past is if I leave the barber pencil after I put down the tapes, sometimes that barber pencil can show through and it's really tricky to have this weird white line at your hairline when you want to have it more clean looking. So take off the barber pencil before you lay your hair down. Okay, and now we're ready to lay the hair down. So you can take out that clip. And what I like to do is start with the sides and be very, very gentle. But you want to softly stretch the sides and pull them over, because what can happen if you do the center first and then you do the outsides, you'll be left with ripples. So I prefer to go very, very slowly, do the sides, make sure that it has the proper amount of very, very gentle stretch, and then do the hairline slowly but surely, making sure you're lining up that edge of the hair system with the edge of the tape as much as you can. Now, if you don't decide to show your hairline, this could be a much faster, quicker process. I just personally don't think I look great with bangs. I don't think I like having that tickle of bangs on my forehead. It really bothers me. So I like to show my hairline. So because I like to show my hairline, it's a little bit more effort. But to me, it's worth it. I like how it looks, and see how I haven't pressed it down completely yet. So taking your time will make a big difference in making sure that it looks really, really fresh. And then I'm going to gently start pressing it in as I go along. You can see on the sides, it's lined up pretty nicely. I can see from the mirror underneath that it looks really good. Now, if there are areas where there's a little bit of space where you didn't quite get the tapes all the way down, you can grab a little bit. I'm using the Bold Hold long wear white glue, and you can use this over the tapes and almost make it as a bridge if if you don't have quite as much tape on as you need. This is a really, really great trick that I learned from one of my friends on TikTok, actually. That's why I do love the Hair System to Pay community, because everybody is really willing to help each other out. The only people that are skeptics are people who don't even really wear hair systems, which is kind of funny. But anyways, I take a tiny little applicator. You can use a Q-tip. I've used the back of that comb that I showed you earlier just to place a little bit of glue. This tends to be a sweaty area for me too, so this is a great place for me to add that little bit of extra glue. And one thing I will note with this is that you definitely will want to let this dry clear before you press it down. Remember how earlier I told you if there's overhang, you can fix that? So here I'm coming in with a little bit of rubbing alcohol and loosening up that tape. There's a funky little corner right there, and I want to cut off that corner of tape so I don't have this just strange little bit of tape poking out. So you're going to want to use either nail scissors. These are hair cutting shears. I think this is a great tool to have if you do wear hair, just because you're going to use this to cut the base of your system anyways. But I just trim off that little bit of tape going underneath the hair system. And the nice thing about the rubbing alcohol is rubbing alcohol isn't going to ruin the tape at all. Once that rubbing alcohol dries, it is going to be super, super sticky again, and it's going to work great. I have always gone in with a bit of water on the hair pretty much immediately after I've pressed down the hair. If you're doing glue, you may want to wait this out a little bit, but with tapes, I found I can give it a quick style right after I've done that. Using a vented comb like this will make it really, really easy to style, and then your refresh is pretty much done. A couple of things that I've picked up from doing this over the years is do it in the morning, not right before you go out for the day, but do it pretty early so it gives your hair a bit of time to bond and cure before you head out into the heat and the humidity. And if your refresh isn't holding as long as your reapplication used to, look at your cleaning step. 9 times out of 10, that's where the issue is. Residue is the enemy. Make sure that you're getting it off of your base and that your scalp is fully cleaned so that it gives you the best bond possible. That is a clean hairline refresh, clean, secure, and it took a fraction of the time for full reapplication. It took me 27 minutes recording and making sure I was getting all of that in, but I have done this many times and it only takes 15, 20 minutes. I've also done that when I've been on the road and traveling, and all I've had with me is just the glue, some alcohol pads, and my tapes. And it's a really, really easy thing to do once you try it a couple of times. Once this becomes a part of your routine, you're going to start recognizing the signs way earlier, and you'll be able to catch it before it gets to that point where a full reapplication is your only option. I hope if this helped, smash that like and subscribe. I post content like this regularly. We're building a solid community of people who are actually learning this stuff all together, just like I'm learning. Come find me on Instagram and TikTok at Blend It Like Beckham. I'm active over there a lot too. And if you need supplies for your refresh, adhesive remover, tape, whatever you're working with, check out my partner over at Top Unique. I have a code BECK to save 22% at checkout, and all of that information is in the description below. They're the only ones. I'm very proud to partner with Top Unique. That's who I use and who I stand behind. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.